Yo! Welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derek, and today we're getting into a video I am incredibly excited about. 2021 is already winding down, which is freaking terrifying to think about that we're already getting into 2022. And if you notice, the background behind me is kind of different. I'm in the process of moving, so that might get more and more progressively messy at some point. It might be blank, there might be boxes, maybe a couple bodies. You never know what you might see behind me. Barkley is a very vicious cat. He takes no prisoners. You never know, but ignore that. Pretend that it looks as pretty as normal. It'll be even prettier soon once I get that new apartment. So we will kind of get into that. But for now, we are focusing on 2021 and all of the commanders that have been printed. Because I'm going to be real with y'all. When I looked at this list of all of the legendary creatures from this last year, I remembered maybe like 4% of them. It is insane how many legendary creatures get printed every year now, which is kind of awesome. I'm a huge fan of that because every time I sit down for a game, you have such a chance to see a commander you've never played against before. Maybe a card you don't even remember existed, and I find that really exciting. But for this video, I'm not just going to ramble the whole time, only half the time. We're going to focus on my 5 favorite legendary creatures printed in all of 2021. And really why I love them. This is something I look at both from the concept of fun to play against. Really, how much joy do these commanders bring to the table if I see them or in brewing them? It's a combination of reasons, but I can't wait to dive into it. Now, if you want any of these legendary creatures, or if you want to build these decks, need some fancy cards, maybe the holidays are coming, and you want to buy shiny cardboard for the lovely nerds in your life, head on over to TCG Player. TCG Player is phenomenal. You can find anything you're looking for there. You can get foily things, alternate arts, all the things, and foil basic lands, y'all. If you haven't figured it out by now, these Innistrad foil basics, that was like probably 40% of my Magic budget the last few months. I probably have a problem. Most likely. Either way, they are so damn pretty. Head on over to TCG Player to pick them up. And if you use the affiliate link down below in the description, it'll help support the channel in the process. We always do appreciate all the help. But let's just jump into this list. Like I said, criteria kind of, I don't really know what the criteria are. Whatever card makes me happy. It's a happiness scale. But let's just jump straight into this list of my favorite commanders from this year with number 5. And at number 5, we have Runo Stromkirk. This is one of those decks that I'm kind of just keeping on the back burner where I have too many deck lists that just sit in lists somewhere, and this is one of those that will kind of be towards the top of them. The Scarab God was like that for me for a very long time. Feldon was like that for a very long time for me. Just decks I knew I always wanted to build but couldn't get around to it, and that's where I see Runo. It seems like so much fun, and I do really appreciate y'all in the comments letting me know that he doesn't transform into the big scary Crothus thing, that he's summoning it. That makes a lot more sense. Doesn't break the rules of physics. And they're like best buddies. It's kind of cute. You have both sides, 2 besties just hanging out. One a big sea monster, one a vampire. Just, it's like a love story on a card. How could you not like it? But even from a practical standpoint, forget just the flavor. I just love swinging sideways. I love turning sideways. I guess swinging sideways is redundant. I love big creatures, and this is just a big, it could be sea monster, tribal, or just big shit tribal deck. I absolutely love it. And this is also the type of deck I would love to see at a table because I like big things swinging at me too. That's the type of stuff I want to do in Magic. I want it going back and forth, aggressive, swinging, and this seems like such a fun deck to see him play against, and one I'm really hoping catches on. It seemed pretty popular so far, and I'm hoping to see it more and more. Then at number 4, we have Lonus or Lonus Cryptozoologist. This was one we're gonna go with Lonus here. Lonus is such an exciting concept for me, not only because I like the deck that kind of surrounds it, but I also like what it kind of represents. I really wish Simic wasn't so annoying to both play and play against. When I first got into Commander, Simic was my favorite, which is probably makes sense, but because it's good. But Simic just intrigued me. I love the concept. I love a lot of Simic creatures. I love just doing big dumb things, Biovisionary, and all of these things. I think it's I might have just got the name wrong. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Whichever it is, there's a lot of cards in Simic and Sultai that I've always really loved, but it's moved into this like grindy, outvalue everyone type gameplay that I don't find fun to play or play against in most cases. But what Lonus is doing, and I'm just rotating between Lonus and Lonus at this point, is adding a new way to look at Simic. You still have value, but in a way you have to work for it. It's not just play a card, get a card. It's not cast a creature, draw your whole deck, cast everything for free. You have to get clues. You can find really creative way to use these clues. These clues happen to be artifacts. Do you want to try and steal your opponent's creatures? It's a very fun, balanced take on what Simic does. And this is, again, the type of card I want to see it across for me. I want to see what direction someone's taking it. What are they doing with all these clues? And it'd be really fun to build around, too, with a lot of creatures. It kind of speaks to me in that way. And while I've really avoided, I don't have any Simic decks currently, and I try to avoid decks with Simic in them at this point. This is one that I love the direction, and if I was ever to build a Simic deck, this would be where it's at. Ooh, now we're getting in these top 3, and these top 3 are amazing. And at number 3, it's Jaren Corrupted Bishop. Jaren is so much fun. Obviously, Ormondal is my baby daddy. I can't not love me some Ormond daddy. Ormondal, we have a love connection that maybe nobody else can understand. And if I didn't want to put Ormondal at number 1 because I'd come off as needy. I can't be that. I can't do that. Ormondal needs his space. But at number 3, I feel like I'm giving him that space, but I can still profess my love to Ormond Daddy nonetheless. This is just such a fun card. I love that it incentivizes you to get down to 13 life. I just love the whole concept of trying to get to 13 life. I will link the deck tech I've done. It's actually for all 3 of these on this list so far. I have done deck techs for. I'll link them in the description to check out. The whole concept when I wanted to build this was getting your life to 13 as fast as possible, trying to trade life totals with people. This commander really tries to get you to do some creative things if built like that you're really not trying to do in any other decks. It's like the Triskaidekaphobia type deal where you're manipulating life totals and almost playing a mini game within the game that can be super, super fun. And it really takes the focus away from just value, winning, dominating into this cool mini game where you're still affecting the game and trying to win in the process. I just love the design space of this card. And this is, again, one where basically the first 3 on this list are all commanders that are on my short list of decks I will be putting together in paper. It's just a matter of which one when. So yeah, this is one I think that I could see this becoming one of my favorite decks because of that mini game. One of the tough things I find in a lot of decks I build, no matter how fun they are, is they remind me too much of another deck. Like for example, I had a Sidisi spider spawning deck that I played for a very long time. So much fun. I loved doing it. It's all these tokens, but the thing was I had so many token decks that it felt like I was doing similar things across the board, and it was hard to pick which one I wanted to play, and I ended up picking one token deck over the other. Yeah, this kind of fits its own niche that you're really not going to find with other ones, and I think it's really cool to have decks like that just give you that unique experience. Also, Ormond Daddy. Now at number 2, these top 2 spots are dedicated to Sed. Sed is probably the person I kind of like respect most in deck building. Sed builds freaking amazing decks. Every time he builds a new deck, I'm always so excited to see what he's put together because it's always fun to play against. It's always doing some weird shit, and he's always drawing cards with Cran that don't actually exist. I'm convinced half the cards he plays aren't real, that he's making really old looking proxies, but we'll let him get away with it because it's fun. These top 2 decks are both decks that Sed plays a lot, and they are my top favorite decks. I actually have never played either of them, but I've played against them a lot, and I think it says a lot about a deck and a commander when it gets you excited to play against it. And at number 2, we have Awaken the Blood Avatar, which I actually don't know. Is it Exodus? Yeah, Exodus is technically the creature side. It's one of those flip cards. It's a sorcery as your commander, and this card is just so much fun because it progresses the game, especially the way he built it. He didn't go deep into the whole, make everyone sack all their creatures and this and that overboard. It's not like a Dictate of Erebos Grave Pact deck. It keeps the board in control. Makes people sack creatures to some degree to make sure nothing gets too out of hand. It's always causing people to lose life. He does a lot of cool things with copying it, so there's all these copies of these blood avatar demon looking things swinging everywhere, and it's just so much fun. It is a mini game within the game trying to make sure that the blood avatar doesn't get summoned too many times, that your life totals aren't getting too low. And for whatever reason, the mix between progressing game and giving you that little almost mini boss within it, every time he pulls this deck out, I am incredibly excited to play against it. And it's just one of those commanders that when you can pull that off and make something that fun to play against, I think it says a lot about the design of the card, and it's solidly at number 2 for me. Then at number 1, my number 1 favoriteest, most favorite, whatever the hell, deck to play against, and this is just bar none. I get so much joy on my face every time I see this card, and it is Tergrid. No, I'm fucking with y'all. Number 1 is Carter. This is the Carter, Mr. Carter. Where have you been? Around the world? Now I'm back again. Mr. Carter is so beautiful. I love this card so much. Shout out to Joey from EDH Rec. I think you were the only person or the first person I saw call it Cardor on the little infinite tokens, where it's just a little Cardor on there. This card is so much fun. Sed started playing this really not too long after it came out, and every game is amazing because it's forcing people to attack, and it's the funniness of him just dropping it. It's like nobody can attack me now, so you really like try to get these aggro attacks in on Sed early in those games because you won't be able to attack him later, so it just speeds up the progression of the game. Nobody's sitting back, and then once his engine gets going, everyone's swinging at each other. There's all types of fun politics involved, and it just forces game action to be taken, and especially with the way our play group plays, where it's like very fun, playful pettiness, and everybody wants to have some vendetta against somebody else. This card just facilitates that better than I think any commander I've ever played against. It is such a blast. I will request this deck if anybody ever has it. It is such a good time, and if you couldn't tell by this, I really like combat. I like when things are swinging, things are happening, and for me, Carter does the best job of it and just really always makes for very chaotic and very fun games. And that is going to do it for my 5 favorite commanders of 2021. This is a really stacked list. It was actually much harder than I expected. I haven't built just my deck building in general with paper. I don't really put many decks together. I only have like 5 or 6 decks that I just constantly make shinier. Essentially, I really just like to build decks, brew decks, think about decks, and then kind of have my little suite of commanders that are all my little best friends that I go out and do battle with. But these are all commanders that I either want to see or play as often as possible. And yeah, 2021 was a great year. I was actually thinking about doing initially like a bruh commander list of commanders that are like, bruh, like why are these? But there's just not that many. Shout out Turgrid. I was terrified a couple years ago with the year commander, this and that, and the direction everything seems to be progressing in as far as the design space of commanders is kind of great. Don't want to jinx it. I feel like I said that. Now we're going to get 30 Urzas next year. But for right now, it seems like it's in just an amazing spot. As always, a huge shout out to the patrons. We love and appreciate y'all so much. We just really thank you for believing in what we do. We have tons of content coming up. I'm moving spaces. Ken's moving spaces. We're kind of getting new studio spaces set up. Lots on the horizon. It's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but lots of content to come. Very exciting. Tons of tables to be flipped. Thank you, Ken. But until then, I'll see y'all next time.